Good morning, everyone. My name is Ebenezer Ademesa, and I'm a training coordinator with the Temple SBDC. We are glad to have you here this morning. The Temple SBDC helps small business units to start and grow. We do this through our no-cost consulting webinars, such as this one you've joined this morning, and other training programs. We are proud to be part of a nationally recognized and accredited network of SBDCs with over 1,000 centers across the United States. You've joined us today for a webinar in our first step series titled Concept to Plan. A follow-up email will automatically be sent to all attendees within the next 2 business days with the materials that will be covered today. All attendees are currently muted. However, we encourage you to post your questions in the Q&A in a Q&A chat box so that our presenter will be able to answer the questions either at the end or during the session. Now, I will leave the room for Mark Tucker to commence the presentation. Mark, you have the floor.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Ebenezer. All right, I truly appreciate you. Number one, I got in early, guys. I got this set up, so we were ready to go and rock and roll today. This is part 2 of the business planning session. And I just wanted to thank everybody for coming back. And as Ebenezer said, you will get the complete slide deck at the conclusion of this. And we're also going to be able to entertain any questions that you may have. I cannot, though, go to individual questions, and I do instruct you to sign up as a client, and then we can get a consult. With that, everybody, I want you to relax. You got your coffee, you got your tea, shake out a little bit, get loose, and we're going to enjoy developing a business plan this morning. First thing, as we left last week's session and we talked a little bit about Joe's Coffee Shop, we'll get into that. But I want to preface this by saying right off the bat, we are one of 15 centers across the state. We're a no-cost consulting arm, and we provide services for startups, existing businesses, growth strategies for businesses that want to grow, and also for those businesses that are looking to move in a different direction or maybe be sold. We can also help you with those areas. I've owned a couple businesses here in Philadelphia. I've sold a couple. I've worked internationally. I've worked nationally. So my background, I hope I can provide some experiences to you guys today. With that, we're going to get started. We talked about this. We won't go through that. We talked about our consultative services, the training services, and here's where we are. Today's agenda. Last week, we talked about taking a business concept and developing it into a business model canvas. And I look at the canvas as doing an outline. That's an outline of your business. Just like when you used to write a paper before, your professors or your teachers would say, you need to write an outline of what you want to get accomplished. A business plan, a business model canvas acts in the same way. It's really just a planning tool for your complete business plan. And I want to share with you, a business plan is dynamic. It's going to constantly change as your business changes. So
Hi, everyone. I think Mark dropped off. Kindly give me some time to get him on. Thank you.
I see that.
All right, let me see if I can bring back in the shared document.
Hi, Mark.
Are we good?
Yeah,
All right.
loud and clear.
All right, go ahead. Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. I got kicked off the internet and had to go out and get back in. And it took us a little glitch there. So I guess that's technology. I'm very, very sorry. So we'll just move on from there. And sorry for that little inconvenience there. We talked about the business model canvas as the starting point for our business plan. And we'll go from this point. As we move forward. All right, Mark. How come it's not moving? All right, Ebenezer, it's not moving. All right, goals for the business plan. We're going to go through it piece by piece. First off, first goal, to prove you have a good business model. You want to have it on paper. Does it make sense? Is it feasible? Do you have the right amount of capital to start the business? These are all questions you need to be able to address. And by having the business plan, it gives you a place to really capture all that information. Second point, you need to prove that you're the right person to run the business. And by writing the plan, it doesn't mean you don't start the business, but maybe you add people into your marketing staff and your management staff to help you run the business. Number three, key point here. It demonstrates that the business is not a hobby, it's not an activity, but it has profit potential. You don't want to open a business and know you're going to be go under within your first year. So you want to have a business model that makes sense in the marketplace at that time. Now, you can look at the future and you can say, okay, in the future, when I get this established, I'll be able to make more profits. But you need to have enough of holding costs and startup funds to enable you to get through that period. And the last point, and it's critical, in a lot of cases, once you develop your business and you do have the startup cash, for you to grow it or you to purchase an asset, maybe lease a building, may need to go to a lender. The lender is going to look at two critical areas. They're going to look at your business plan and they're going to look at your finances to start your business. Those are going to be two critical pieces. Parts of that basically are the financials. Usually it's a 3 or a 5 year projection, and they're going to look for those documents. We at the Temple Business Center here can help you build out that model. All right, from concepts to plan, first piece, we'll go and we'll talk about the company summary. Very simplistic. When was the business started? What's the purpose of the business? And where is the business location? Very simple. Should be very clear. For Joe, he's located in Northern Liberties in Philadelphia. He specializes in coffee and beans sourced from roasters within 10 miles from the store. So he's local and he has state-of-the-art brewing technology. That's for his company. So he's summarizing, the key components of his company. His company's ownership, very simplistic. It can be an LLC, limited liability corporation. It can be a sole proprietorship. It can be an S corp. But you want to have it clearly defined. What type of business are you? And it's also going to tie into what type of insurance you're going to need. All right. Under business ownership, if you do have partners, you want to share their titles, their ownership percentages. Now, key point, ownership percentages is different than how you divide up profits within the company. So that's critical. And the roles of the owners will also be outlined in the business plan. All right. For Joe, ownership structural. Joe and Jane are co-owners of the coffee shop. It's an LLC, and it was formed in the state of Pennsylvania. Yesterday, I had a conversation with a client who's in the process of starting a great business here in Philadelphia. I'm sure you'll hear about it. I can't share anything more than that. But she said, I started it in Pennsylvania. Maybe I should have started it in a different state because it would be easier for me to get through some of the legislation on the business. She may be right, but we need to go through and make sure we can eliminate some of the hurdles that she's facing because she did start it here. She's vested in the area. So we're going to do our damnedest to pull that through. But in this model, Jane, owns 60% of the business and Joe owns 40% of the business. The management team. Now, a lot of the business plans will be, I own 100% of it. I'm going to run it day to day. I'm handling the marketing, the sales, the operations, and I understand that. When I started out with my first business, I had to do it that way as well. But eventually I brought in partners, I brought in employees, and I also had an advisory team. Now, under the management team, you want to outline the title, the roles, the responsibilities, and the professional backgrounds and the experiences of the key managers. That adds a lot. For example, if you're opening a daycare center and the individual that's running the daycare center day to day has been running daycare centers successfully in Philadelphia and also has a background in childhood education and maybe psychology, it would be a great benefit. So you would want to put that into your business plan. If you're opening a pizza shop and you've run pizza shops, for numerous years, not just worked in them, but you had the opportunity to run them, that would be a key piece to be added into the professional backgrounds. Now, the third point here, these are some key individuals that should be a part of your team. Your insurance agent, the lawyer, your accountant, and then also a banker. You may have a business advisor such as myself or one of my counterparts, or you may have an outside business advisor as well. But these are key people. If you can't afford to hire them right off the bat, just incorporate a line in there. And so the individual reading the business plan would know that you're definitely aware of the need and you have an access to these individuals. Joe's management team, Jane and Joe. I'm not going to read this, but what I like to state is Jane has 10 years working in restaurants. Her role is definitely spelled out clearly what she's going to be responsible for. Now, Joe has 20 years experience in coffee roasting. He's been in the industry. So he's considered probably an expert in that industry. He knows it. And his job and role within the company, although he's on the management team, is to run the company, run the coffee shop day to day. Basically, Jane's behind the scenes, but they have a working relationship. It's clearly defined. You'll find a lot of small businesses, everyone does everything. Well, that doesn't usually work. It's like a football team. The quarterback's job is to deliver the ball, hand it off to the running back, and run the offense. He's not the linebacker. Same thing here. You define what the roles are of the management team of the company. Okay? A true story. Company's coming to Philadelphia. They're going to open up a high-end burger shop. The gentleman who is opening the burger shop, in this case, has been involved in franchising, working in a restaurant that does food, and he's done it over a period of time. And he had a focus area on building out creative entrees for the restaurant chain. So he has a very strong background. So he put that in his business plan. Products and services. Basically, this is what are you going to be selling? What are you going to be servicing? What services are you bringing to the marketplace? That's what it incorporates. Now, a part of that will be, how does your clients or customers benefit from what you're bringing to the table? It needs to be clearly defined. You can't be all things to all people. So just remember that. You can't be all things to all people. You're finding a lot of your chains today at every level are narrowing in on what their core items are, and they're focused in on those, and they're dropping some of the ancillary lines that they bought. Same thing with consulting firms. They're focused. Joe's Coffees shop, he has single cup of coffee. Joe will sell those. That's one of the ways he'll do it. And he's been doing it for a long time. He'll also sell box coffee, where he'll sell boxes of coffee. And he also sells bulk coffee. So he has a couple different income streams that are going to drive the product. But at the basic line, it's high quality coffee. Now, Joe's smart enough to know that he has a light roast, a dark roast, and decaffeinated. And he probably has a line of teas as well. A lot of people during the course of a day have been moving to having some type of tea. And so he's smart enough to say, all right, maybe I'll have, a line of teas there as well. So he's opening up his company. When you think about your company, you should have your core item that you're selling, or the core item that you're servicing. And then you may have some ancillary things, but don't take your eye off of your core item that you're selling. Let's talk about the revenue model. This is critical. In Joe's model, he has various streams coming in. He manufactures some coffee through his roasting machine. People pay him to buy his beans. He does that through wholesaling. He also has a retail opportunity. Now, subscriptions. He has people who basically subscribe to buy coffee from him. So he has them on a plan. Maybe they get 20 cups of coffee and they get, coffee and pie or something of that nature. So these are the various streams of income for Joe's company. Let's talk about the one on the left side there. It says sales of advertising. And a lot of people may say, hey, wait a minute, he's a coffee shop. How does he get money from sales of advertising? Well, Joe's smart. He has a wonderful whiteboard or a pegboard, or maybe even an automated message board in his coffee shop. People come in and out, and all the local businesses like to advertise in Joe's shop, because they know if people stop in his shop for a cup of for a cup of coffee and a slice of pie, they will then look at what's being advertised within that footprint, and maybe they'll go to their stores. Another example, they're having a sale. They can advertise it in Joe's shop, and the people in the area know about it. The last one on the left, freemium. A freemium is something that maybe Joe's giving away to get you to either go to a higher level or maybe to try a different product. So maybe you'll buy a cup of coffee and he'll give a small cinnamon bun or a sticky bun that he wants to see if it's going to work. And it's a local product, but he wants to see if it's going to work. So maybe you'll get a free one by buying that one item. So it's different methodologies for getting people to try or upgrade a product or service. All right. A lot of your, like Spotify will do this. For 2 weeks, you'll get free service. Oh, and by the way, they want you to buy the premium service over a period of time. These are his revenue models. You need to look at your company through your lens and understand your revenue models. It's critical to your success. All right, for Joe, let's look at his revenue models. He earns revenue through the sales of coffee. Basically, it represents about 75% of all his coffee in his year 1 and year 2. His coffee is paid for when ordered at the shop. And the second major revenue model will be bulk orders, which is representing about 25% of his company's revenue. Notice he has goals clearly outlined, and the goal is to expand the number of business accounts to be 50% of the shop's revenue by year 5. Now, let's ask ourselves, why would Joe want to sell bulk coffee and have it grow at that rate? Why would he want to do that? I'll let you think. Time's up. The reason he wants to do that, it's probably easier and more profitable for Joe to sell bulk coffee than man the shop day to day. So he's looking at other other revenue streams to grow his business, but also to reduce the amount of cost associated with doing that. Smart guy, Joe. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go to that bottom line. Notice he says he gives the corporate buyers 15 days for coffee and payment. That's critical because he needs to make sure that his receivables are turned over quickly. A lot of small businesses let clients string out their payments back to them too long. I was an auditor at one time, and that was one of the key things we looked at, was how fast were invoices and what was considered bad debt. So just remember, you want to make sure you get paid for the services that you provide within the terms that you've decided and agreed upon. You may want to give some discounts to get paid quicker. Industry and market analysis, critical. And in today's world, you can go everywhere. You can go to the internet. There's vertical IQ that you can use. There's various vehicles for you to look at. You can look at ChatGPT. You can look at all the different market analysis tools that are out there. We at Temple Small Business Development Center can help you in this area, but you need to own this. So you need to do your own market analysis. So for those companies that want to get a view of what's going on in Philadelphia, that's primary. You need to also know what's going on in the industry as a whole. For example, let's use a live example. Today's market, as I was riding in this morning, I noted that they were saying that Firestone and Bridgestone were really concerned about the tariffs that are hitting the market. And as a result, they're trying to make sure that their inventory levels for their tires and tire-like products are positioned correctly. But they feel that they're going to be affected by that. So they're trying to understand that. So they're looking down the pipeline at what's going to cause a ripple in their business. You should be doing the exact same thing. A live example, you have a consulting company here in Philadelphia, and they've been doing a lot of IT consulting. And now, a major area is cyber, is cyber audits and cyber security, but they're not into that market. So they're getting pushed to the side. So it may be a short period of time before they're out of business if they don't jump into that market. How do they do that? Maybe they go and bring in someone from the outside before they actually nurture it inside. Maybe they do a strategic partnership with a company that focuses just on cybersecurity. But you need to understand the marketplace that you sit in and also the marketplace as a whole. Industry market analysis for Joe. Well, Joe gives you a broad base that 50% of all Americans drink coffee. Wow. I should have bought some shares. Well, that's a major one. But he also talks about the independent coffee roaster and that industry is growing, leaps and bounds throughout Philadelphia. He talks about the new technologies in coffee. So those are all things affecting his market day to day. Competitive analysis. Before we entertain and talk about this, I want to entertain the questions that are out there in the chat. Ebenezer, can you help me out? Is there any questions in the chat? I guess not. No questions, we'll move on. Let's talk about the competitive analysis. What's going on in the marketplace competitively in Joe's? Well, brewing coffee at home is more affordable. more time consuming. Dunkin' Donuts is more affordable than Joe's quality. Starbucks is consistent, but no really high-end brewing methods. And you'll note, I won't read all of these, but Joe understands the marketplace that he's working in and selling in. He understands it. He's always looking for it. You know, he's looking for the local competitor as well as the national competitor, as well as the chains in the marketplace. You need to be doing the exact same thing. I had a business owner in Philadelphia, matter of fact, my son works for him, that would actually go stand on a corner, and he was in commercial real estate. He wanted to know what was going on in that area before he decided to put a real estate development in that area. So he would go down at numerous times a day and night and just stand around and talk to the people. So he wanted to know what was going on in this area. And this was down in Center City, basically an old city. So he wound up buying a building in that area, and it's done pretty well. But he did his own market analysis with his own eyes. Don't rely on someone else's eyes. We talk about differentiation. What differentiates your product or your service from your competitors? You need to understand this. This should be part of your selling pitch. It should be part of how you market your product. And you don't have to talk negatively about your competition. Matter of fact, I poo-poo that idea. I don't want to paint a negative picture about my competition. I want to share what I do well and why my company provides benefits to the industry and to that client. Remember, you're here to solve the client's problems. You're not here to slam your competition, but understand your value in the marketplace. Differentiation. We can look at the slide. We can talk about the various issues. These are just some shared values to help justify higher price, and also some things that Joe does on a day-to-day concept to help with his company. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but upselling, we talked about that. We talked about saving the client money, or saving the client money, or basically saving the client time, or preventing an issue from occurring. These are all different ways that a business can look to add value to itself. You can help the client achieve his or her goals. That's critical. When I had my consulting firm, I would always try to find out and know, what is the client trying to do? Are they growing? Are they scaling? Are they looking for more technology? What were they trying to do? And I would ask them, what are you guys looking to do in the next 3 years? Because I needed to know before I could come up with a plan to help them achieve their goals. The one over here on the left, new opportunities. For those consulting firms out there, you want to look at what opportunities can you maybe share with your clients, and that may provide new opportunities for them. And that may not be with just a new opportunity. It may be with a strategic relationship that you know, and you connect those two individuals. You add value to your client. You add value to your brand in the marketplace as well. For Joe, here's his differentiation, his features that differentiate his coffee company: the quality of the beans, the different types of brewing methods, his staff expertise. Now, let's talk about that. A lot of people have problems keeping good quality staff. They're always moving. And a lot of companies manage through that because they have a very good training process. They really value their employee relationship. They really go and tell the employees that they're a part of the entire pathway. And it's not just in how what they tell them, it's in their actions. Maybe on a given afternoon, he brings in, a nice lunch for his entire staff. That's one of the things that, some companies will do. Oh, no surprise, they may do that. My boss here at Temple Small Business on a given afternoon surprised us on a Monday and said, I have lunch coming for everyone. And it was great. It was just a nice touch. Now, everyone, the first thing they'll say is, you need to provide I want more pay. Well, pay is critical. And your staff, if they understand it, they're being paid fairly, they'll work with you with that one. But you need to make sure that you understand what differentiates your company from everyone else's. All right? Those are some critical things. Note the last one, Joe is considered an expert in his business. An expert, that's that 20 years experience. It counts. Now, if you don't have experience yet in the business that you're jumping in, there's ways for you to bridge that. You can have them on your management staff. Don't be afraid to have people within your company that have different qualities and different experiences than you do. It makes good sense. Diversity of thought and experiences adds value. Someone told me that. That's pretty good. Marketing and sales. I love this. You need to have a great marketing plan for whatever company you own, but you also need to have a sales process that relates to it. So this is a key thing, and I need all of you to maybe investigate marketing and sales. Two different issues. They're not always the same. Matter of fact, they aren't the same. So you need to understand this. But within your business plan, you need to talk about the relationships that you're trying to cultivate with your customers. You also need to know how will you reach those customers. And if you remember back to your business model canvas, we talked about channels. That's how you meet them. Is it Instagram, Facebook, your website, face-to-face, flyers, all those different ways. Sometimes you need to use all of them. Sometimes you're just focused on one and two. For Joe, he has a great online website. He also uses Facebook, Instagram, and all the various tools. He has a great Google listing. His social media pages are maintained and up to date and utilized with positive information that may not be just about his company. It may be about the local baseball team or basketball team or, you know, an activity. Maybe there's an art clinic that's going on. He'll share that on his page because he knows if they go to that art, where did you get this? Well, Joe's Coffee Shop. I found out about it down there. That's a positive. People are talking about his company. So you need to have an understanding on what's going to work for your company. Customer profile. We talked about this on the business model canvas. What's critical here is you understand who your true customer is. As my role here at Temple Small Business, I'll ask some of my clients, well, who's your target customer? And some will say, well, the whole world. No, it's not. Some will say, well, basically people within 10 miles from West Philadelphia, because they're going to come to this area and use my products or use my services. And maybe it's someone between the ages of 25 and 40, or maybe it's 40 to 60. They could be your target. It could be someone that loves, you know, healthy options to stay healthy. If you're, you know, a gym or a personal trainer, you need to understand your customer's profile. Don't be frightened. You should use surveys to get opinions from your customers, your current customers, and maybe future customers. If you're trying to test a new product, ask them. Ask them what they think about it. Get their feedback. Joe periodically runs a survey within his coffee shop, and it's free. And if they reply to it, maybe he gives them a cup of coffee, but he gets good feedback, you know? And that may be, how are we treating you? What's the customer relationship like? What's the sales process like? Is my staff being responsive? And he takes that information in, but he uses it as well. Some of it will be bad, like me today, getting kicked off. That stunk. Well, here we are. Love the line. This is a slide you need to take and use. Your customer has all the answers. You need to talk and stay engaged with the consumer, which is your customer. It's what they say. It's how they say it. It's who they say it to. These are all critical. Like if a client says, well, you know, I got coffee from Joe's shop and it was cold, and he tells one person, do you think the next person's going to go there? No, they're going to go down the street. But if he says, oh, I had a wonderful experience, coffee was good, they had fresh muffins, it was good. And you know what? I really enjoyed a young lady at the head. She asked me what I needed the first day. And by the time I came back in the next day, she had me all queued up. That's great. That's good customer service. It's still critical. For Joe, here's his customer profile. I'm not going to read them all. You can read it, but you notice it's broken down into different segments. So he understands that he's serving a mixture of different customers. You should understand this as well. The bottom line is critical. Use the database, first research to identify 200 businesses that are like his within the marketplace. There's a ton of research out there that you can pull from and use day to day, no matter what business it is. Let's talk about the sales and service. He has an easy platform to take payment. He can take cash, he can take credit, he can take debit cards. He can use all the various ways to have his clients pay him. And it helps him meet his clients' expectations. You know, like if your client expects you to have, you know, a point of service where they can just use their credit card or their phone to take a payment, and you can't do that, it makes it more difficult for them. Some clients don't carry cash at all. I'm a little old-fashioned that way. I have an allowance that my wife gives me, so I still carry some cash. But a lot of clients don't even accept cash day to day. They'll only take your credit card. So you got to realize who you're selling to, and you want to make it easy for your client or customer. Sales and service. Joe lets you know that sales for retail coffee are paid for when ordered and uses a point of sale system. We just talked about that. His bulk orders are paid for within 15 days. The invoice is sent electronically and has links to online payment. He makes it very easy to take the payment. Very good, very easy. As things change, he'll change. He's smart enough to accept and move with technology. We need to continue to move with technology. And although you still provide quality service as the technology changes. Branding. We're going to do a branding clinic today from 12 to 1. But I simply put branding down as how do you want the value of your company to be represented in public? What do you want to be known for as a business, as an individual? And the two are tied together. Live situation, we had a guy who owns a business in Chestnut Hill, and he also coaches in Chestnut Hill. And the guy on the field is rude and really doesn't do a good job, and they're going to remove him. So people look at him as an ogre, and people now have that same feeling about his business. And he's really hurt his brand because of his behavior outside of his business. So remember, your brand, your actions carry with your business. And this is why a lot of business owners in today's world, if you have some basic human resource requirements, if you act out in public, it hurts your brand, thereby you may lose your job. I think everyone's aware, or a lot of people would be aware of a certain quarterback who was a nationally known broadcaster who got into a pickle in Indiana this past weekend, and he's going to lose his job. He's going to be sued and may go to jail. And that's going to hurt his brand and the company he works for as well. From your level, you need to understand your brand in the marketplace. Branding. The business wants to be known for the quality coffee and an enjoyable place to sit and enjoy it. That's Joe's branding. He wants to be known for that. His business logo was designed using the services of a freelancer. So he had someone outside of his company define and help him with his branding. And his brand is consistent across all his social media channels. Now, Branding is critical. We'll talk about it later today, but there's a great book for those that won't be on the branding seminar, webinar today. It's called You Are a Brand. You can Google that book. It's by Catherine Colput. Take a look at it. It's $8, I think, on Amazon or basically in eBay. Communications and PR. Joe has an ongoing communications plan and PR. You know, he'll write periodically an article to the local papers. He'll share a business story on occasion locally. He'll try to get different activities within his bookstore, within his coffee shop. And one of the things he may do is bring a local writer into the coffee shop. Or if there's a local event, maybe they're looking for a place to host an event, he'll have it in his coffee shop. What a wonderful way to get people to come into your shop. These are all different communications and PR plans that you can develop. We can do that within our Temple framework here as well. For Joe, he uses Facebook, Instagram. He uses it pretty consistently. He also does press releases pretty consistently. And he's also actively involved in the community. Those three things are part of his communications and PR plan. Networking, critical to all businesses, small businesses and large businesses. Are you involved in the local community? Are you involved in the local business community? You need to be actively involved, not just go to the meetings, but bring value to the meetings, ideas. You know, business is an interactive activity. It's ongoing. So Joe does a good job with this. Here's what he does. He's involved with the local business associations. He goes to national and regional conferences and does presentations. And he also works with the networking organizations in the area. That's what Joe does today. Pretty good. Operations and logistics. A lot of companies do a great job at developing a lot of different things within their company. They have a great product, but their operations are very, very poor. Very simplistically, how do you produce and serve your product or your service in the marketplace? Does it meet all the state, federal, and city requirements? You don't want to be in a situation where you have L&I coming into your business or you're constantly being reprimanded or restricted from doing business. For example, within the government arena, if you don't follow certain specific regulations, your offer or your bid is totally kicked out. It's not even part of the bidding process. So follow the rules within your business. You can't get around them. Do it right the first time. So those are some things. The other one on the very bottom, capacity. You know, a lot of us will start out and I want to have an international company. Well, okay. How about if you start out right here in Philadelphia, grow it within the Philadelphia region, and then move it within the local counties around Philadelphia, and then go from there. Take little pieces of it and do it very, very well. So these are some things logistically you need to be aware of. The big one that I'm concerned about with a lot of my small businesses right now that I consult with is getting materials and supplies. There are some delays. They're also trying to manage through price increases. So they're trying to make sure that they don't lose clients by raising the price too high, but they don't eat any additional costs that are being put on to their products as they're coming into the country. So they're trying to manage both ends. It's a tough wheel to manage, but we'll get through it. Operations and logistics. Joe gives an outline of very clearly when he's open. He also talks about his staffing. He has 2 to 3 part-timers. As I mentioned to you, it's critical to have great employees and have them vested in your company. He keeps a running inventory of the beans, milk, and paper products. He probably has 2 or 3 suppliers for every product. Notice what I say? He may have 2 or 3 suppliers. He also has a daily and weekly goal for sales per day. So he keeps a running average. Really a smart businessman. He knows what's coming in daily. And he keeps a manual ticker. I find that funny in today's world, a manual clicker for what for employees and what customers are coming through. So he's really keeping an understanding of his customer flow. I find that interesting, but it is good and it's good for him. Financing. All right. Critical. Show me the money. How much capital is necessary to start the company? How much capital is necessary to start the company? It's critical. A lot of people write a wonderful business plan, and then you ask them, did you do a budget? No. I thought that's what you were going to do. No. We can help you develop your budget, but your budget is something that you need to understand. You need to understand what critical items you're going to need, whether it's space, whether it's equipment, maybe it's people, whether it's resources. You need to understand what is the necessary items for your capital to start your business. You also need to understand concretely what ongoing costs are you incurring to run your business. You need to understand that. And note, as your business goes up, and hopefully if you're doing the right thing, your sales line is going up, you're going to incur more cost. So you need to factor that in as well. The last question here is it sustainable? Can your business stay in business? And for how long? You need to look at that. You need to understand that if you jump into a business that is basically being downsized or basically edged out by technology, it's going to be a short-lived business. So you need to think about that. Now, if it's something new and innovative, you can jump in and maybe you want to go from stage one of owning it to maybe stage two of building out a model where you could sell it to others. Those are things you got to consider, and we can talk through those as well. Starting a budget process. We talked about this a little bit. Do you have enough funds to start the business? Do you have a financial feasible plan for your business? Number three, ensure that the business does not run out of cash in its early days of operation. Set goals for raising money. Remember, you're going to need more cash than what you think to start and run the business. The bottom line says 3 to 6 months. I would say you need 6 months at least to run your business because of the ebbs and flows. Now, here I'm going to talk about something, and a lot of people are going to get upset, and I don't care. I just want to share it with you. If you're expecting to run your business through getting grants, it's not going to happen. Not in today's world. Grants are basically catalysts to get you started. Maybe they help. Maybe you can win a grant for $2,000 or $3,000, or maybe you'll get some startup funds to expand or buy equipment or incorporate green technology. But that's a short-term kicker. It's not going to be a major help for you to sustain your business. So remember that. Thank you. Enough said about grants. Under your startup budget, please consider some of the following things. If you're going to have a hard site, basically you're going to need a lease deposit. You're going to need to factor in renovations, furniture. Don't always look to buy new. You can buy used. You're going to need equipment to entertain your customers. Maybe you need a front desk. Maybe you need different people. Maybe you need various equipment as Joe. Other requirements as outlined, professional services. We talked about legal. We talked about attorney. We talked about accounting. We also talked about technology, marketing, and insurance. Those are all things that you're going to need to factor in from day one. Your business needs to be insured. Okay? Those are things you're going to need to consider and have a part of your budget. Even if you just take a piece of paper out and just start to write down these items. You'll get a copy of this entire slide deck. This is a critical one. This gives you basically a template to use to develop your budget. And we'll work with you on this. We'll help develop your budget. Cost for Joe: rent, payroll, coffee, marketing, insurance, utilities, technology, professional services. Those are the things that are affecting his business day to day. Financing, critical. Before we get started on this, is there any questions that you'd like to have me entertain? Ebenezer, is there anything in the chat that I should entertain?
Yeah, there are questions in the, we have like 3 questions in the chat box, the Q&A chat box.
Okay, let me take a look at these. I don't see any active questions in here. Ebenezer?
Yeah, so
Is there anything?
yeah, so in the Q&A chat box, a question from Edwin. When it's convenient, wondering if you could speak more about division of labor, how you may decide what to delegate and what to do yourself in the business.
That's a good question. The question, I'll frame it again, is, how do you define the divisions of labor within your company? Well, that's based on your company's business flow. If you sit down and say, okay, I need to handle this function because it's customer facing, and maybe that's taking orders or responding to complaints, but it's not actually producing the product day to day. So as you look at your business, you need to understand what's critical for the owner or basically the manager of the organization to handle versus someone else. Another item would be, let's say your company wants to expand its marketing and you have in-house marketing, but you really want to go to a different level. You may want to bring in someone from the outside to help you in that one area. So maybe that's when you have, you develop a strategic relationship and you strike a relationship with that company and they come in and handle that for you. So that's an individual company issue that you'll have to face. Ebenezer, is there another question?
Yeah. Roger is also asking, would you be able to also compare Joe's product-based business to a service-based business? For example, personal trainer or yoga instructor. Sometimes it's tricky to transition this example to my service-based business.
Okay, so I would imagine he owns a personal training business or a yoga shop, and he wants to talk about how that would tie into where Joe is, correct?
Yeah.
All right, let me speak to that a little bit. I have had some past experiences with both personal trainers and yoga shops opening up recently. And the critical piece is they have to have a well-developed branding plan because they're drawing in and there's a lot of competition out there. So that's one thing you're going to need to have. You want to have a location where you're performing these functions that's accessible and well-known in the community. So you'll see some of the personal training shops as well as yoga shops are sometimes in malls, in strip malls, and you can get space there pretty inexpensively, but it gives flexibility and people will see your shop. But critical in those is basically the branding of the individuals that are doing the training. My wife goes to a personal trainer at the YMCA, and it's funny, she actually reviewed all the personal profiles of all the trainers and felt comfortable with the one young lady. The reason being, she had 2 small children. She was a mom. My wife felt she could relate to her. They have a wonderful dialogue, probably about other stuff outside of the training. But the trainer also does a wonderful job listening to my wife for what she wants to work on and then putting together a plan for her. So she customizes it. So for a yoga studio or a training facility, physical training or whatever it may be, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's Pilates, whatever it may be, you need to understand your clients. Another example, a lot of, and I'll say moms and dads, work at home, but they still go get a physical, have a physical training session in the morning or in the afternoon. So maybe you set it up like, hey, you know what? Moms and dads, once you drop the kids off the school at 9, we have a class set up from 9:30 to 10:30. So you can get back home and start your business day. So they start to understand their client. Now, where did they get that information from? Maybe they did a survey. So that's some of the ways you can do it. If you have a physical training facility or a yoga shop, we'd love to work with you. Love to talk about your individual shop. Any other questions out there?
Yeah. Jones wants to find out. Jones says, I'm currently pivoting the way my company to service Black winemakers. Any suggestions for marketing?
Could you repeat that one for me? I'm sorry.
I'm currently pivoting the way my company can serve Black winemakers. Any suggestions for marketing?
Yeah, I can't go into the individual ones. I would have him please go in, become a client, and we can entertain that client there. I can't give him any, specific on that one. I have to know a little bit more about it.
All right. I think those are the 3 questions.
Okay.
In the chat box. Yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you for that as well. Hope I help people. Let's jump back into financing the business. For Joe, let's get out of here. I'm sorry. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. All right. All right. Ebenezer's not moving again.
All
right, here we go. Joe's financing startup cost for his company is $60,000. He has financial projections. He has a statement of his cash flow, and he also has a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet. We can help you with this, but your original startup cost is something that you want to sit down with a piece of paper and actually start to craft yourself, and then we'll help you backfill areas or ask you about your assumptions there as well. Yeah. All right, here we go. Where will the funds come to support Joe's company? What portion of these funds will be the owner's investment versus outside capital? Well, let's talk about that. Joe and Jane have $30,000 in savings to invest in the project. They have raised an additional $15,000 from family investors. The business is seeking $15,000 business loan from a local micro lender, aiming for a 2-year loan. This is a great scenario. Joe and Jane are showing that they're putting in their cash, their ability to own and operate. So they're saying $30,000 of each is coming out of my pocket to start this thing. We got another 15 grand from the family. We're only looking for $15,000 to start this. So if I'm a micro lender, I'm going to look at their business plan. I'm going to look at their financial documents. I'm going to look at their credit scores and say, you know what? Joe has 20 years experience in doing something similar. Jane has 10 years of experience in running a restaurant. they're putting in roughly $75,000 of their own money or their family's money. I think they have a pretty good shot at getting the micro lender to give them the money. So when you go and you think about opening a business, you got to think about the funds to start the business. Be realistic. Don't, go down a road, well, I'll go get the $100,000 because I think it's a great idea. It's not happening. That's not real world. Now, I'm not saying you can't start your business with a limited amount of funds, but you got to remember, it's not just starting the business. It's about 6 months that you're going to have to go till you really start to generate an ongoing revenue stream. So think about that. Those are some questions that I'll ask you, or all of my counterparts will ask you here at Temple or any business consultant. Your accountant will say the exact same thing. Let's talk about financing options for businesses. As it's rolling in, you saw with Jane and Joe, they did a lot of self-funding. About $75,000 of it was self-funded, but they also got a micro loan. There's also SBA loans and traditional bank loans. There is grants. We talked about that. I don't even want to talk about crowdfunding to start a business. And equity investment is usually for a more established business. But we'll go through and we'll talk a little bit about the advantages and disadvantages of each one. And there are some disadvantages. This is a little slide show that talks about raising money. I'm going to take this link and put it in the chat. Hopefully, I'll be able to do that. Bear with me. I'll make sure you get that link so you can look at that video. Let's go back to self-financing and let's talk about this. The advantages, you're not in debt to anyone. You're in control of all the expenditures. You're in control of them. So you're watching the budget. No one runs a credit report on you. Your wife may, or your partner, but no one outside party. The disadvantages, basically, you're limited to the resources that you have. It really can reduce what you can do to start your company. It does take away from your personal funds and family resources, and it limits your potential to speed to grow your business. Those are real world. I took a loan out from myself when I started my first business. I went into an insurance plan I had and took out funds. My wife had a fit, but we were in agreement that she said I could do it. And I was able to repay it pretty quickly before COVID. So I'm just sharing with you, these are the advantages and the disadvantages, but you got to be willing to put some skin in the game to start a business. Microloans, small business lending loans, traditional loans, and lines of credit. These are other ways for you to get funds for your company. They all have different advantages and disadvantages. Oh, going back, just so people know, a micro lender is usually giving you a smaller amount. They may not be as restrictive on the type of credit standards that you have. They feel that based on the business plan, based on what you're attempting to do, and maybe based on some social or economic things that they're trying to achieve, you would be able to get a loan from a micro lender. The SBA also wants to spur small business growth and development, and they do have great programs for you to access. You will have to provide tax returns, additional information. Your credit would be pulled. Bank loans are also traditional loans, and credit union loans play out. And yes, they will look at your credit. Yes, they may ask for collateral. Let's just address it up front. If you don't have collateral and you're looking for a $150,000 loan, it's probably not going to happen. You may need a co-signer who has collateral. All right. Lines of credit work the same way. So let's be smart about that. Ask yourself that if you read your business plan and you read your business financials, would you lend yourself money if you had the money to give? That's the question you need to be honest with. Advantages, grants. You don't need to pay it back. Disadvantage, they're very, very competitive in today's market. They're not very easy to get, and there's not that many opportunities to get them. They're also, most cases, very small dollar amounts, and they may have restrictions on the use of funds. So I would always tell you, you want to look to see if there's any grants out there you apply for, understand the requirements for applying for them. You need to meet all the requirements. And I would stay and say, how much time is going to be invested in you searching for a grant rather than maybe taking on a part-time job to get more money to start your company? You know, you're going to need to put skin in the game one way or another. Crowdfunding. This is a real big one. This is a hot one. I'm going to have a GoFundMe account as a Kickstarter to raise funds from the community to start my business. I can't wait to get started. They usually don't work. They've worked on occasions when there's been a social issue usually tied to it, or there's been a catastrophe of some type, unfortunately, and someone wants to come and they'll support getting that business back up and running. And I think it's very critical to understand that those are usually the messages that are rolled out. But if you come out and say, I want to open up a coffee shop and I need you to, give me $1,000 to do it, it doesn't usually happen. Now, as we wrap up, and I'm very sorry, we got a little hiccup with the technology, but we at Temple Small Business Development Center have a wealth of resources that you can use. We have a marketing consultant. We have a consultant that's doing webinars on various parts of technology, to include GPT chat, different things that we're doing there, you can use small business tools across the landscape in today's framework to grow your business, to get research on it, to do market forecasts. We help you with all that. We also have a financial arm of analysts that can help you build out your financials. But most of all, we'll ask you the questions that you need to be asked, and you need to have a comfortable answer and getting that answer before you spend money or time going down a path that maybe you're not ready to go down. The high we get is when a business opens and runs well, and maybe a year or 2 years from now, they come back and say, hey, I'm looking for a growth strategy. Can you help us develop a growth strategy? Or I want to buy another company or add a line. Those are great highs, and we try to prevent those. I've had a client that I'm working with today that started out with just a conceptual design, and they opened their business 9 months later. They followed the path, they used all the resources in the pipeline, and they also got a $175,000 loan, but they had $60,000 saved up to start that. So with that, please use this. My direct email is marksbdc@temple.edu, but you must register as a client to use our services, which are no cost to you. I thank you. Please, I'll entertain any questions that are in the chat, and I look forward to meeting and talking with all of you, and I'm hopeful you'll have a great day. With that, Ebenezer, can you sum it up?
Yeah, so I think there's one question from Edwin. What's the monetary value range for micro lending versus traditional loans?
It ranges for the micro lender. Most micro lenders are under $100,000. There's some that go up a little higher, but usually that's a lower, a lower amount limit, and they're usually a payback period, probably usually within two to 3 years. That's coming down a little bit because they want to turn those funds back around and get them back into the marketplace. There's quite a few of them throughout Philadelphia. And if you just Google, matter of fact, micro lenders in Philadelphia, you'll get a window of them. Any other questions?
None from the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just close with this. You know, starting a business is wonderful. It's a real challenge. We need more people to think about opening them and managing them. Experience really counts. So if you're looking to open up, and I'll make it really simple, you want to sell water ice and pretzels, why not go work at a water ice and pretzel spot? Figure out all the things that they're doing, how they're getting their inventory, how do they source it, how do they market, how do they hire people, and then you figure it all out. Work on somebody else's dime, get experience on their dime before you go bridge the gap. That's a great avenue. Experience counts. Before I bought a real estate company, I actually worked for the corporate headquarters. I learned everything about the real estate franchising model from them on their dime. Then I decided to buy a real estate company. So you need to be smart with that. I know everyone has a really sharp idea out there, but it's really good to have an understanding and experience level before you jump out there. Everybody have a great day. I look forward to it. Ebenezer, I thank you as always.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Thank you everyone for joining. I've posted a survey link in the chat, and we would recommend everyone goes through the survey so that we get a feedback for the training. And like I said earlier on, the materials will be shared. The materials will be shared with everyone. Thank you all for joining, and have a good day. Hi, Camilla. Okay, so for the Brandon webinar, Mark, please, is it the one at 12 p.m.?
It's 12 o'clock today. It's from 12 to 1.
All right, so let me put the link out here. Let me try to put the link out here. I think some of the attendees are asking for. Yeah, so I just posted the link of the Brandon webinar in the chat. So
Ebenezer,
Camilla,
could you also add the link for the cartoon on financing for everyone? Could you also put that in there?
Yeah, so I don't have the PDF, so I don't have the link.
All right, I'll try to get that out to everyone.
All right. Yeah, so when we share the
oh yes,
the material, they will have it. Yeah.
All right, very good. Have a great day.
Yeah. All right, sure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.